Hey folks, welcome back. You ever wish that you could live in a different country? Yeah, me neither. I watched this foreign film called Parasite recently, and I couldn't understand a damn word they were saying. If I lived wherever that movie was filmed, I'd be screwed. The movie was pretty good though. I can't wait to move out of my basement apartment and get a big nice house like that someday. But the nice thing about living in a foreign country is that I could get all kinds of stuff that you can only get in that country. Like if I lived in Japan, I could play all the Dragon Quest games, or if I lived in France, I could smoke cigarettes or whatever they do there. Dragon Quest, baby. Everybody's favorite series of JRPGs. Except for that one. Yeah, for some reason Dragon Quest has always kind of lived in the shadow of its more famous bigger brother. Or I guess you could say younger brother, but whatever. Dragon Quest may not be as celebrated by us dumbass Westerners as Final Fantasy, but over in Japan, people go absolutely bonkers for this shit, man. Over here, Dragon Quest is basically a linear series of video games. But over in Japan, it's a full-ass multimedia franchise with spin-offs, side series, books, manga, anime, the works. When you think about it, it's sort of weird that Westerners are so much more into Final Fantasy than Dragon Quest. Like, compared to Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest has a much more Western fantasy style. It's very clearly inspired by European fantasy. You know, Sword in the Stone, Lord of the Rings, etc. And on top of that, the art is done by Akira Toriyama, the man responsible for Dragon Ball. Everybody fucking loves Dragon Ball Z, man. It's far and away the most well-known anime/manga series. Dragon Ball Z is like the Tiger Woods of anime, man. Even if you don't watch anime, you know about the time Goku won the Masters Tournament. So why is Dragon Quest not as lauded as the Final Fantasy series outside of Japan? I don't know. Just because I pose a bunch of questions doesn't mean that I have any intention on answering them. Yeah, so sometimes Dragon Quest doesn't exactly get the love it deserves. And like I said, a lot of spin-off titles are often limited to a Japanese release. In recent years, us non-Japanese people have been given access to games like Dragon Quest Monsters, but in general, we've been limited to the main line of games. However, there is one spin-off game in the Dragon Quest series that got released outside of Japan for some reason. And that game is Dragon Quest Heroes Rocket Slime for the Nintendo DS. I feel like everybody has a game or a couple of games that you're absolutely crazy about, but nobody else knows about, or even gives a shit about. Like, all my friends would be off playing Pokemon, and I'd be in the corner playing Rocket Slime, and they would tell me that this game sucks, and they'd throw stuff at me and spit on me. Come to think of it, I don't think those were my friends. I think those might have been bullies. Dragon Quest Heroes Rocket Slime, or as I'm going to be calling it, Rocket Slime, because there's no reason for anything to have a title that long. Rocket Slime was released in North America in 2006 for the good old Nintendo DS. Unbeknownst to us dumbass North Americans, however, it was actually a sequel to a game on the Game Boy Advance called, Slime Mori Mori Dragon Quest Shogeki no Shippoden. I'm sure the word rocket is in there somewhere. Look, if there was an English title, I would have called it that, okay? I wouldn't have subjected you to that. Blamed Square Enix, not me. But yeah, anyway, Rocket Slime is actually the second of a trilogy over in Japan. But for some reason, Square Enix felt that us Yanks wanted the Nintendo DS one. I don't know why, but I'm happy about it. It is, of course, centered around the slime, a recurring monster in the Dragon Quest series, and basically the series mascot. Slimes are another reason that it absolutely blows my mind that Dragon Quest isn't more popular outside of Japan. Like, look at this guy. What about that doesn't make you want to throw all your cash at a 16-year-old cashier at a Walmart? We start out with our eponymous slime, who you can name whatever you want, but his default name is Rocket. Right off the bat, this game is already flexing how much personality it has. When you're typing out a name for your character on the bottom screen, a little horde of slimes forms the letter that you've selected on the top screen. It's just a cute little detail. But after that, it's opening cutscene time, baby. We're transported to Boingburg, a town populated entirely by slimes of all different shapes and sizes. Rocket's little sister, Bo, wakes him up and tells him that their friends Huli and Swazi are hanging out at the hip, cool loitering spot, the Royal Gardens. Huli, the absolute rascal, shows off that he has stolen a treasure from the king, whose name is his royal wobbliness, because everything in this game is fucking adorable. Anyway, Huli shows off the warrior flute, and after a little tutorial section, Rocket blows a little tune into it, which pisses off Rocket and Bo's dad, Big Daddy, who speaks exclusively in capitals, because again, everything in this game is adorable. So Huli stuffs the flute into Rocket, which elongates him, to prevent Big Daddy from whipping them with his belt like last time. They convince Big Daddy that Rocket is a baseball bat. Bo says that it has eyes so that it can see the ball. There's nothing I wouldn't give to go back to the writing room for this game to watch all the writers give themselves stomach ulcers laughing at their own jokes. But anyway, the fun suddenly comes to an end when Boingburg is violently invaded by just a fucking army of platypunks who come from an evil gang called the Plob, who want the warrior flute. So they destroy the city and kidnap every last slime in town, except of course for Rocket, who, due to his new elongated appearance, does not appear to the platypunks to be a slime. So rather than kidnapping him, they just chuck him off a bridge. We launch into the first area, Forwood Forest, and the game begins. So what kind of game is Rocket Slime? I don't know. Rocket Slime is kind of a weird game, honestly. I guess you could call it an action-adventure game if you like being vague, but it doesn't really fall into any genre nicely. It's got a top-down perspective, and your general goal is basically to save all 100 displaced members of Boingburg. Your way of attacking is called an Elastoblast, which you do by holding down A, pressing down on a direction, and then releasing it. You know when that asshole kid on the playground has an elastic, and he pulls one end of it and releases it, and he won't fucking stop? Like, Jesus Christ, bro, it was funny once. Enough. Yeah, it's basically like that. It feels really good, though. It's very well integrated. It feels as natural as something like jumping. And every time you release one, it's very satisfying. Also, if you hold it down longer, Rocket fires up like he's going Super Saiyan. And when you release it, it goes twice as far and does more damage. Now, of course, the Elastoblast is an attack, but your goal isn't exactly killing things. When you Elastoblast something, it bounces up in the air. And if you run underneath it, you can pick it up and throw it. Each level has train tracks with carts constantly going through them, all of which conveniently lead back to Boingburg. So if there's anything or anyone you want to send back to town, you can throw it on a train cart and send her home. Also, if you want to head home, you can just jump on a cart yourself. Plus, if you're carrying anything around with you, it'll come back to town with you. Every level has a count of how many slimes there are to find on the top screen. Now, of course, the motivation for saving all your homies doesn't lie exclusively on your morals. You see, when the gang of platypunks invaded, they launched these giant spike balls that inconveniently landed directly in front of a bunch of doorways and stuff. Nicely enough, however, each one of them has a number indicating how many slime tons it weighs, and each slime can lift about 1 slime ton. I hope to God you're following me here. So yeah, the more slimes you get, the more open Boingburg becomes. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, actually no, I don't think I know what you're thinking. I was gonna say that there's a whole part of this game that I missed out on, and you were gonna be upset with me for not mentioning it, but again, nobody cares about this game except me, so yeah, this game is only like 50% running around saving slimes. The other 50% is spent doing tank battles, or maybe more like 40-70. Wait, no, that's 110. Anyway, so when you get to the second level, the Tomb of Tutenschliemann, nobody bats 1,000, I guess. You find out that the function of the warrior flute is actually to call the Schliemann tank, which you can use to engage in battles with other tanks. It may seem like kind of a mini game, but everything in the game is kind of built around it. Basically the way it works is you control Rocket on the bottom screen and the tanks are on the top screen. You walk around the 2 different rooms in your tank, elastoblasting items that come out of 6 little dispenser things, or whatever, and you throw them into one of the 2 cannons on your tank. One shoots straight forward, and the other one shoots up to the right in an arc. You want to shoot all your good stuff at the other tank to deal damage, but also shooting stuff into the enemy's ammo destroys it, preventing it from hitting your tank, but also meaning that you've lost out on an item damaging your enemy. It makes for a really fast-paced and strategic experience. You end up doing stuff like throwing weaker artillery into the cannon in front of your stronger stuff to prevent it from being knocked out of the sky before it's able to hit the enemy tank. The goal is to deplete the enemy tank's health and then go over to their tank and destroy their engine with an Elastoblast. There is a shitload of items that you can use as ammo, and there's a lot of different ways to acquire ammo. The most obvious is to simply find items in the different levels and throw them on a train cart, but you also get a free item every time you win a tank battle, and also every time you save a Boingburg resident, they give you a free piece of ammo. But also, there's an entire alchemy system within the game. As soon as you save this slime, whose name is Flanpa, like Flan and Grandpa, he opens up a little cart in the far east side of Boingburg where he has an alchemy pot, a common element in every Dragon Quest game. You collect recipes for making different items, and it can be a good way of getting really strong weapons. The items are really diverse in how they work too. Like you have standard items that just do damage, but you also have healing items, items that can go through enemy artillery. You have these little turrets that you can place next to your cannon that shoot bullets that automatically do damage. Shields that just completely go through all incoming artillery, and you even have these little ghost bombs which go through every item except for holy water. It's nuts, man. There's so much going on here. Plus, there's an item called the Bastard Sword. So when I was a kid, I was like, hey mom, I can say bastard because it's in the game. And you can't get... you can't get mad at me because the video game said it, not me. Another huge aspect of tank battles is the fact that you can have 3 crew members with you in addition to yourself. The first time you summon the Schliemann tank, this platypunk named Dr. Sid, get it? Because he's got a duck bill, and Sid because it's Final Fantasy. Anyway, Dr. Sid gets fired by the Plob, so he decides to join you, and he opens up a shop in Boingburg. He also has a German accent, which is funny, because German people are funny. I don't make the rules. From here, you can go talk to him to manage the ammo in your tank, and also choose what crewmates you want to have with you in tank battles. These are usually slimes that you've rescued, but also if you pick up enemies in the different levels and send them on a train cart back home, you can recruit them to your tank crew. Your crewmates are all NPCs and are controlled by the computer, but they all have 2 different commands which you can switch on the fly in the pause menu. Like for example, I always use this big dude, Baron Blubba, and I generally have him set to use the upper cannon, obviously meaning that he'll just keep grabbing stuff and throwing it into the upper cannon. But you can also set him to keep the tank safe. This is really useful for when you run out of health and the enemy mobs start running toward your tank. Obviously you can't rely on him 100% to prevent them from destroying your engine, but he's a huge help and he lets you manage the offensive with the defensive. There's all kinds of stuff that the crewmates can do. This guy prays to heal the tank, this dude steals ammo from the enemy tank, this guy can go infiltrate and sabotage, etc. There's a lot of diversity in terms of the crewmates. And you know what? There's not a whole lot more to say about Rocket Slime. I really like this game. It's been in my life for a really long time, and I think it's one of the most fun and unique Nintendo DS titles. It's one of my favorites on the console, not to mention the cute art style and the great sense of humor that has become a trademark of the Dragon Quest series. Overall, I just really like this game. I strongly recommend that you purchase it and play it legally on your Nintendo DS instead of doing something like illegally downloading it on an emulator and playing it on your computer.